Well, hello everybody, and welcome into today's edition of One Nation Weather. We are watching two active areas for the week ahead. That week is for the week of May 21st, 2023, so it's Saturday, May 20th for you now. And we want to go ahead and get a look at the week ahead for you here on One Nation Weather. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First of all, we want to recap your Friday storm reports that came out of that level 2 severe risk that really curled around from Arkansas through portions of Texas and back into New Mexico. The good news was we didn't really see any major reports in this zone, but certainly some scattered coverage, which is what was expected, of those wind and hail reports from portions of western Arkansas, west of the Little Rock area. Some of those reports in far southern Oklahoma for us here, but really Texas was the hot spot for those hail and wind reports. Only 2 large hail reports, which is the good news. Hopefully not too many insurance claims going on there. And no tornado reports in that area. Saturday setup looks like this. We've got the potential for some of that rainfall with a cold front that's working its way eastward for you here. We have areas of low pressure around Arkansas with that cold front, but the main system driving it all is situated up in Canada for us here. It's that escaped system that made it past that dominating ridge of high pressure that's been in the west that really still is there and supporting some energy for some pop-up storms there with those systems as well. I'll give you a look at that in a minute. You can see the very far southern tier of Texas also has the potential for some of that rain, but it's really the east coast focused on some of these showers that could briefly produce some flooding as we go into the day today and really even the days to come into portions of the southeast coast. We'll have a look at that as well coming up. Saturday, high temperatures getting on up into the 80s in many portions of the southeast for us here. Even some 90s. New Orleans might be 91 degrees today, and you know with that New Orleans humidity, it'll probably be feeling more like 100 degrees out there. So definitely make sure you're ready for that and drink plenty of fluids if you're out in the heat. We've got 70s for many spots further north. We've got some 60s into Michigan around the Buffalo area. We've got some temperatures near 60. And then we also have some temperatures back into the 80s to near 90 into portions of the west with that low pressure, that high pressure area that's been really helping to heat that area up. Now here's our severe weather outlook. We have 3 little zones for you here for your Saturday that we're watching, but I think this zone for you here in the southeast is definitely going to be the primary one where we could see some damaging winds, some hail, and maybe even a very brief tornado. That would be around the Huntsville, Alabama area where that could get going. We also have the potential for some winds and hail again in southern New Mexico as well as southern Texas for us here, those small zones. So here we go. Let's time it out. Saturday, 4 p.m. Central Time for you here. If you're in Eastern time, 5 p.m. for you here. You can see some of these showers and storms getting going along that cold front, but notice how they really get going as we head towards the 7 o'clock time frame. So Eastern Alabama, down and even towards closer to Mobile, we could see some of these pop-up showers and storms getting going. Again, briefly gusty winds around 60 miles an hour, that 1-inch diameter hail, and maybe a brief spin-up associated with a potential spinning cell for you here on the northern end of this. Really, I think the severe threat will go way down and kind of wane because there's, already a lower threat, and then when the sun goes down, the energy is lost. You can see just some heavier downpours and maybe some thunder going to upstate South Carolina, northeast Georgia, and western North Carolina for you here. Severe weather outlook for your Saturday, May 20th. So still today, we're looking at the potential for, again, a level 1 risk of those severe storms get going into portions of Washington and Oregon. So let's play that out for the day today. I'll tell you the model's not getting too on board with this, keeping things quiet from 2 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. But as we go towards 8, you can at least see the model indications that some activity will be going. I can guarantee you, though, the Storm Prediction Center has caught on to something. We will see at least some isolated coverage of storms that could go briefly severe in this area. I wouldn't be shocked with some of those West Coast tornadoes we've had over the course of the last several systems that we could maybe see a brief spin up out of one of these cells, but main threat will be gusty winds. Your Saturday flood risk, we've got 5 individual level 1 risks for flooding, so no one spot has a high risk, which is the good news, but we've got a spot from Maine into New Jersey for you here, right along the East Coast. That does include New York City. We've got a level 1 risk for flooding from places like Nashville down to Mobile. We've got another risk for here in the Four Corners, that risk where we've got the severe in South Texas, and then in that zone where we've got the severe in the Pacific Northwest. So you can definitely see where the severe storms and flooding are coming in together now as we work your way into your Sunday, May 21st. Notice that cold front really pushing most of the rainfall coverage off the shores for you here in the Northeast in general. Only far northern areas into portions of Maine, New Hampshire, back through New York, those areas will be seeing rain. Notice now we're not seeing wraparound snow or mixed precipitation. We're all rain for you here with these systems that move through. Notice still, though, pretty wet as we go into portions of the southeast for the day tomorrow, and that's really as a low-pressure system is going to stall out in that area. Right along the immediate Gulf Coast, wet as well, and we'll keep some of this moisture back into portions of the west and the far western plains for you here. Your Sunday outlook for severe weather does include portions of Washington all the way over to western Montana, back through Oregon, which is why the models are indicating this a little bit better since we've got a broader area where this could occur. Notice some of these cells getting going for you here. Individual cells, again, capable of damaging winds, maybe some brief hail. I wouldn't be shocked, again, if one or two of these cells that get going, maybe even in Idaho, to produce a brief tornado. Your Saturday night systems. Now we're talking about the systems that are going to be impacting the country this week. You want to pay close attention if you live in the plains or along the southeast especially, because this is really going to affect you. Saturday night, again, notice the bulk of that energy pushing offshore in the northeast, but you can definitely see that low pressure system. Still some showers into the south, southern zones. And here's what we've got going on again. There's that big ridge in the west still holding on. Here's the system that escaped it. You can definitely see that blue area. Blue is really just low pressure. Red is high pressure for you here. Sunday night, notice we've still got some of that precipitation right along the immediate coasts for you here for the Gulf, and especially the Atlantic coast for you there in portions of Georgia and Florida. Notice we've still got some unsettled shower coverage into portions of the west. Here we go Sunday night, that ridge breaking down a little bit, but still pretty much there. Not really any major systems going on at this time. Notice though, as we go into Monday night, we've got more of this energy working into the northern parts of the country. That's going to help fuel pop-up storms in the plains. Here we go with more shower coverage, a new area of low pressure developing along the Gulf Coast. You can see some of those blues coming in. Also notice the blues with that new system coming in from the west. And then here we go Tuesday night. That's when we'll start to see some of these showers and storms really start to infiltrate the plains for you here. I think Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, we'll see some of these storms. And one or two could go severe, not a widespread outbreak, or else the Storm Prediction Center would already be worried about that. But even into the northern tier, maybe some of these showers and storms getting going. Notice here, we've got some of that rainfall still around the southeast. You can see that area of blue really developing. Still some of these blue spots in the north indicating low pressure systems working through. And that'll continue to fuel these storms, as well as the storm offshore in the southeast, which continues all the way into Thursday night when that looks to develop pretty nicely according to the GFS. And we get some of those storms from portions of the Dakotas back into Texas Thursday night. And also notice a system coming on shore there in California. Now let's go ahead and talk about the tropics briefly for you here and zoom in closer on that system that's going to be off the shore of the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. You can see at least 1,001 millibar low, which is a pretty decent area of low pressure for you here. Getting going mainly north side loaded as we go into Thursday night. And then a few days later from there, it's looking like we'll see some of that rainfall according to the GFS model, according to the ECMWF model for your Thursday night into some of that rainfall. And a few days later, the European brings us further up into the Carolina coastline for us here, which is also kind of what the GFS does. So we need to monitor this, because if we get a landfall, even of not necessarily a tropical system, but at least a tropical entity, that could certainly produce some very heavy rainfall. The European has backed off on its totals for Florida to agree more with the GFS model, but still these isolated areas where we could see 3 to 6 inches of rain could certainly cause some isolated scattered flooding right along the immediate coastline. Also notice that area of heavier downpours of 3 to 6 inches coming on shore in North Carolina for you there. The GFS paints a very similar picture. Now the GFS actually more on board with some Florida rainfall. Some spots may be picking up as many as 8 to 10 inches even into Georgia for you here with the GFS model, but this is a more zoomed out model, the CFS rain model for you here. Notice again how active we're going to be in the portions of the plains with some of these red areas indicating a couple inches of rain, maybe even a little bit more. And then also notice how the southeast coast is going to stay really active with those systems. So subscribe, hit the like button, and here are your credits. Have a great weekend, everybody.